Yo, what's it going on, Blackish fam? I hope all is well in your corner of the world. I hope you guys can appreciate my new setup. I got a much better camera. I changed the microphone because some people were saying that the volume sounds much better on specific videos. But I want to do something a little bit different today. I think it's very important when we get somewhat of a platform that we use that platform to promote positive change. We're always talking about what we can do for the black community, right? Our community, we're people of color, and we consider ourselves modern-day griots. Now we're passing information from one generation to the next. I think it's really important when we highlight when something like this happens. This past week, once again, protesters gathered in Minneapolis to demand justice for another young black man killed by the police. This guy's name is Amir Locke. He's 22 years old. He died this past Wednesday, February 2nd. He was shot by SWAT officers during the execution of what's called a no-knock warrant. Locke wasn't named in the warrant itself, nor was he a suspect in the case being investigated. And now a lawyer for his family said that he's now being represented, I believe, by Ben Crump. And he said that he was in the apartment just staying with a cousin. Now, for those of you that are more familiar with the channel, I actually study constitutional law. So you might be asking yourself, what exactly is a no-knock warrant, right? Well, a no-knock warrant is a search warrant that authorizes police to enter certain premises without first knocking and announcing their presence or purpose prior to entering the premises. Right, such warrants are issued where an entry, let's say the knock and announce rule, would lead to the destruction of, let's say, drugs, or would compromise the safety of the officers involved. So other times, basically, this is what's called a no-knock warrant. They don't have to say anything. They can basically kick open the door. They announce themselves after they've already went into the residence. Now, there's a lot of controversy surrounding no-knock warrants. You guys might remember just a few years ago, Breonna Taylor was killed when police were executing a no-knock warrant. There's a lot of damage, a lot of harm can happen. You can kill innocent citizens, right? There's a lot of controversy regarding whether or not no-knock warrants actually increase safety. Now, some argue that no-knock warrants increase officer safety by allowing that element of surprise, but others argue the element of surprise can cause a suspect or an innocent citizen who might have otherwise reacted calmly or more calmly, right? Than a knock and announce to instead react violently. And I have to ask yourself, how would you react if somebody kicks open your door and they start rushing in? There's no announcing that they're police. You don't know what's going on, and you have a legal firearm on the side of your bed. What would you do? Well, and that's basically the story here, right? On Wednesday, February 2nd, police entered a Minneapolis apartment just before 7 a.m., and they had a no-knock warrant. About 9 seconds into the entry, the officers encountered a male who was armed with a handgun pointed in the direction of the officers. Now, that was in the press release from the Minneapolis Police Department. Now, at one point, shots were fired, right? He was hit, the suspect was struck, and the officers supposedly provided emergency aid and carried the suspect down to the lobby to meet paramedics. Now, the warrant hasn't been released yet, so we don't necessarily know everything that's going on, but we do know that the body cam footage shows some inconsistencies with the original police report in the press release. Now, the county medical officer has ruled Locke's death a homicide, and we're still waiting for the Minneapolis Police Department to release the entire body cam footage from the shooting. Now, the short video released, they always do this, right? It's the first 10 or so seconds of the raid, but it ends right after the shots were fired. The officer who shot Locke appears just out of frame, and then moments just before the shooting, there's some changes with the speed of the video. So the video shows police entering the apartment. They announce their presence only when they've already entered safely, and then once in the apartment, one of the officers kicks the couch where Locke was sleeping, just trying to wake him up. He's obviously confused. He's still got a blanket around him. And what does he do? He has a gun there, a legal firearm. He reaches for that gun. He didn't even know that these were police, right? He doesn't even know that these are officers. And the police fatally shoot him. Now we have to ask, if you guys are familiar with constitutional law, the Fourth Amendment protects you against unreasonable search and seizure. Now there are some exceptions to having a warrant or entering someone's home without knocking, as obviously we're going over with this case. But we have to ask if this contradicts certain, like there's a policy called the castle doctrine. Basically, you are king of your castle, and Minnesota applies the castle doctrine when it comes to self-defense in your home. That means that there's no what they call a duty of retreat, right? So if you feel threatened with great bodily injury or death in your own home, and you wish to prevent, a felony happening in your home, then you can use force to stop that threat. Now combine that with him actually being a legal firearm owner, and we have to ask, what is it? Can we use the hashtag sleeping while black? Right? It's like, why is it that all of these constitutional protections seem to cover everyone else except for black families, right? People of color. Look at Breonna Taylor. This was the same thing. They were executing a no-knock warrant. And we have to look at this, and I wouldn't be surprised if something like this goes back to the Supreme Court and they start to rule it unconstitutional, except for a few minor exceptions. But think about that. Think about Kyle Rittenhouse. If you look down in my playlist below, I have a complete breakdown of Kyle Rittenhouse, everything that happened, and why I thought he was going to get off with self-defense. And it actually happened. This is a kid that shot and killed 2 people and really wounded another person and had a weapon, an assault rifle, strapped to his chest, walking the streets, walks by the police officers, they throw him a water bottle. We appreciate you, kid. Right? This is someone that even after shooting a few people, he's walking to the police with his hands up while people are screaming that he just killed a few people, right? And he's still able to make it home and work out a way to turn himself in. Just think about that. What would have happened if that was a black man, right? Why is it that we can be stopped in our car and have a legal firearm and let the officer know that we have a legal firearm and somehow we still wind up dead? Right? What is it that people are so scared of black people? If you're so scared of black people, then maybe you shouldn't have warrants where you're able to come in without announcing that you're a police officer. Because look at this, people end up dead. Now, what about the exception? If we can't get this off the books, right? If we find that this is constitutionally sound. Maybe there should be a clause where if we are going to do something like this, where you don't have to announce that you're a police officer, right? If you're executing a no-knock warrant, why not use rubber bullets, right? Why not just be able to eliminate a threat come on now, what if this was a kid? What if there was a 9-year-old that jumped out and was running around the house because he didn't know what was going on? You obviously didn't know who was in the home if you shot and killed this young man, and he wasn't even the person that you were looking for. So I think there's a lot of changes that are going to happen and that are going to stem from this. But I think it's important that we know his name and we know exactly what happened before news and start controlling the narrative. I think it's really important that we know who this 22-year-old man is. He had a legal firearm. He was sleeping in bed. His door was kicked open, and he was killed at the hands of the police. And that's something that we're going to have to deal with, and we're going to have to take this to court to really understand what our options are. But again, especially with Breonna Taylor and this no-knock warrant being a part of her death, I got a feeling that this is going to be deemed unconstitutional, or there's going to be some changes here coming soon. If you're a fan and you want to stay this is more than just music, right? In this channel, we've broken down Malcolm X, Ballad of the Bullet. We've broken down the Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream speech, and we've went over constitutional law. We've went over different warrants and exceptions and the exclusionary rule. If you're a fan of getting information that's unbiased, unfiltered, and just getting the facts, man, make sure that you don't just like the video, but you subscribe to the channel, because we're going to stay really focused on this, and I'm going to keep breaking it down while we reach different points in this case to keep you updated on changes and whether or not they're being made.